do we just need a circle that just turns into monstrosities, or do we just say, go, you know what? If you're playing a Circle of the Moon Druid, here are some other fun options that you can go.
I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
And I'm Nerdarchy Dave.
Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds.
Recently, the Dungeons and Dragons trailer dropped after, what is it, SSDC, or I don't know, it's a bunch of letters, right? One of the conventions.
Right.
And, we got the Dungeons and Dragons trailer, and, internet is all buzz about what's going on with it, but we got some really cool classic D&D monsters, one of which was the owlbear, but the owlbear in a very, very specific way that I don't think anybody was expecting.
Yeah, we saw the druid wild shape into an owlbear, and if I kind of read the situation correctly, like they were a horse first, and then went to the owlbear, which, technically druids go, like, they have to go to human form before they can go into a new animal thing, but,
I'm not entirely sure that's true. I think you're just limited by your wild shapes.
Okay, well... regardless of that specifics, we got to see the druid turn into an owlbear, and owlbears are monstrosities. Wild shape allows you to turn into beasts. So what's the wonkiness?
Yeah, well, I've also seen people go, well, druids get polymorph, but polymorph is also only beasts. And technically, if you're already wild shaped into a horse, you want to be able to go from horse to owlbear either. But to be honest with you, I don't actually give a fig. I think it was really cool. It's awesome. Previous conversations we've had here on the channel have been that, there's certain monstrosities that are really close to actually just being animals because they just mash together two or more monsters from the real world. So, and they don't really have any supernatural abilities. They don't have any magical abilities. That there's nothing that really distinguishes them from what I would consider a powerful beast, especially when you throw dinosaurs into the mix.
Absolutely, that was going to be my point of when you look at what a T-Rex can do, which is a beast, far more terrifying than an owlbear. So why can't I turn into an owlbear?
Yeah,
specifically if you look at Avatar: The Last Airbender, they've taken that concept of two animals mashed together. And those are the natural animals of that world, and they don't think anything of it. Yes, there are still things, that are extraordinary, like the Appa, So like those things, like, yeah, all right, that's a flying buffalo. That's clearly not just an animal. Yeah. But, when you've got things that are, more like owlbears, they're animals, so why can't you turn into an owlbear?
Also, like, one, owlbear challenge 3. So you'd have to be a really high level Circle of the Moon Druid even to do it anyway. Any other Druid actually can't, right?
Correct.
Druid has built-in limiting factors.
It does.
If you're a Druid, you have to be a certain level in order to turn into a certain challenge rating. I believe it goes quarter, half, and then 1. And it's second level, fourth level, 8th level. So a quarter at second level when you start being able to wild shape. It goes to a half at 4th level, but also you can only turn into only at 4th level is when you get to turn into things with a swim speed. And then 8th level you can go up to a 1. And then you can turn into things with a fly speed.
Right.
So you have all these limiting factors. A regular druid would never be able to turn into an owlbear anyway. Circle of the Moon could, but that's their whole bag is wild shaping. For them, they eventually get to the point where they can do 1/3 their level. And I think they start off at a challenge 1 as opposed to the challenge quarter. So you have a lot more options.
Right.
So, this got us thinking not just about wild shaping into an owlbear, but other monstrosities are very close to being beasts anyway.
Now, before we get, any further, like you could always go with my druid is going to wild shape into this particular stat block, but my character has an association towards, or an affinity towards a certain animal type. So, like, you could say, well, I'm just using the bear statistics, but I want to look like an owlbear.
So you're saying, the alternative is just reskin.
Yeah, a reskin. And, in that particular instance, it could be something like that. but I don't know anything further about that character, about that particular situation as to why, they chose an owlbear. Hopefully,
I know why. People love owlbears, and owlbears are freaking cool. They're iconic. That's why.
Yeah, and out of game, out of that story, yeah, that totally makes sense, and they wanted to show that visual, and it was, to me, the most impactful aspect of that particular trailer. All right, so like beyond the concept of just reflavoring or reskinning a stat block, you mentioned that there's some monstrosities that are kind of like a normal animal. So what do you want to do with that?
All right. First of all, I went through D&D Beyond and filtered out all the monstrosities. And then I went and looked at them all and went through and said, okay, which ones have animal intelligence and which ones essentially lack supernatural abilities? And I came up with 14 of them.
Okay.
And I also skipped any CR above 7 because it can't be done. Even with a Circle of the Moon Druid, you'd have to go beyond 20 levels in order for that to even happen.
Right. So we have to look at that, range of a quarter to a 6 that, have the low enough intelligence, and fulfill that criteria of not being, extraordinary beyond natural abilities.
Yeah. And also, the owlbear is a CR3. Well, you know what other monster or beast is a CR3 that you can turn into?
What's that?
Giant Scorpion. Giant Scorpion has one of the better armor classes for beasts. It has pinchy claws.
And it's got
a poison stinger. It's a fairly impressive beast. I think it's probably like one of the best beasts you can wild shape into for pure combat anyway.
Right. And I definitely like the Scorpion. One of my first characters that I ever played, with you in a long-standing campaign, was my character who did the psionic transformation into a Scorpion.
Yeah.
So.
Well, also one of the weird things too is even just off the beast list, you have Giant Eagle and Giant Owl, right? They're intelligent creatures. They have their own language, and they have, I believe, at the very least, average intelligence. And clearly, the eagles are based off of
Lord of the Rings,
right? And then they're like, well, owls are close to eagles, natural. They're both natural enemies as well, in case you were wondering. So that is actually a case where we do have a beast that we can eventually turn into that. That is also an intelligent creature. So
yeah, and you would retain your own intelligence unless the thing's better. So if you're a dumb druid,
no, I think you always just retain your mental stats, no matter what.
Okay, I know some things they kind of change, but that's always a thing to look at.
So as for those monstrosities, we have the Ankeg, the Bulle, and the Carrion Crawler. They are a challenge 2, a challenge 5, and also another challenge 2.
You've got the Cave Fisher, the Decapus, and the Female Steeder. That's a challenge 3, a challenge 4, and a challenge 1.
We have a Gorillon, a Griffin, and a Hippogriff, and that's a 4, 2, and a 1 for our challenge ratings.
So you've got a Male Steeder, an owlbear, and the Pest Mascot. The owlbear is a 3, and the other 2 are going to be a challenge quarter.
We also have a Purple Wormling and a Sea Lion. Those are challenge 2 and 5.
So there's definitely a lot of cool things on that list. Visually, they're all awesome, and you can turn into some really great things. But looking at their abilities, there's nothing that stands out that's oh my God, why would I want to allow, this kind of thing to, or allow my druid to turn into this kind of thing. I love purple worms. I think they're awesome. So turning into a purple wormling could be a lot of fun. And with them being a challenge 2, all right, that means only the moon druid is going to be able to turn into it. And, you've got those limitations. When I look at the list, there's only 4 things that a regular druid is going to be able to turn into. So, even this list is only going to really be affected by our moon druid. So that's one small section of the druids that are out there playing. Yeah, moon druid is considered, one of the most favored, but, why not?
And I think most of them, they can't even hit till 4th and 8th level, just because of the movement and CR restrictions, right? And do any of them jump out to you as being particularly problematic, even for a Circle of the Moon Druid? I've got at least one.
All right, what's on your list?
Ankeg only because they can do a line of acid. that is a decent attack, and they are only a challenge 2. So that one I'm a little bit on the fence with. Carrion Crawler, they do have their tentacles and their ability to poison, but it's not like first edition and second edition where they got 8 attacks and they can paralyze up to 8 creatures at once. It is still it's still pretty strong, but you would be able to do it, I believe, at 6th level with both of them. So the only one I find kind of a little problematic is the Ankeg. Now you can be a giant spider and you can cast that web, which is a really good, because I've used it very effectively in the game that I played in, and used it against the big bad. And even if they can get out of it really easily, it still takes their action, right? And if you're a team player, you can at least inhibit them for 1 round in worst case scenario. But they actually rolled poorly for once or twice, so it inhibited them for like 2 or 3 rounds, which is pretty good for a piddly giant spider.
Right. Now, to me, just straight up damage, the Ankeg is on that list. Carrion Crawler, that with the possibility to paralyze, that to me is probably more my sketchier thing. But to me, like, combat is not not the super important aspect of my games. So it's like, all right, well, you know what, if I'm gonna put something in there, well, I'll be prepared. If I'm going to allow my druid to wild shape into a carrion crawler, then I'm gonna have planned, well, are there any new enemies coming wave 2 or round 3, round 2, round 3 kind of aspect, in order to fulfill whatever need I have for the threat.
I will say, though, a 2nd level spell is Hold Person, and that's level 3 for spellcasters. So it is on par with that, because you're not doing it until level 6,
right?
So that is also a limiting factor to look at as well.
Sure.
So the question, I guess, too, is like, do we just need a circle that just turns into monstrosities, or do we just say, go, you know what, if you're playing a circle of the moon druid, here are some other fun options that you can go. Like the Bull A is super powerful, but you can't do it until 15th level.
Yes.
Right. So like there's really powerful monsters that have good armor classes, which tends to be the downfall of beast shaping when you're a druid. And the damage potential for a couple of these is really good, but again, at 15th level, like compared to what other characters are doing, the druid really does have diminishing returns as you get higher in levels, just for that factor. It's still cool to do,
right? And I think both are an option. I think, making a druid that is all about monstrosities could be a thing, and maybe they have, a similar aspect to what the moon druid can do, and that they can turn into the same, CR range, so that you would be able to use these lists to turn into, and, you got to be careful of like, oh, well, are you able to, turn into a carrion crawler and milk it, or turn into an Ankeg and milk it? Like, what kind of problems does that represent? Yeah. And I think that's...
I mean, you could turn into a giant scorpion and milk that then, with the same logic.
That's true. And, like, I haven't seen that happen in the years of playing 5e, but I'm certain there's groups
also
out there
venomous snakes. You also have venomous snakes.
Sure, yeah. And how potent of a resource does that become should you go down that road?
I'm seeing a whole new buddy scenario between the assassin and the circle of the moon druid that I did not see before. All right, buddy, I'm gonna need you to turn into a giant scorpion again.
Okay.
And then you've got the or the giant, venomous snake, and you've got the mason jar with, they have like this stretched rubber top over it, and the snake bites into it.
There's lots of things that you could wind up doing, and it's a situation that can be exploited already, using that. So, what's the difference between, getting poison versus getting acid?
Yeah. And to talk to specifically to the giant scorpion or the owlbear, as you will, that's not even happened until 9th level. And let me tell you, a 9th level party completely trounces an owlbear.
But, it's a situation of, the owlbear's hit points and abilities are just a small resource of what the druid can do. And oh no, I turned back into a human. All right, let me be an owlbear again and have fun and romp all over the bad guys.
That's true, but a druid only ever gets 2 wild shapes per short rest. So yeah, so it is a finite resource
until they get unlimited wild shapes.
Until they get unlimited wild shapes. That's going to take a while. No one actually plays to that level, so I don't know if it actually really exists at all. Anyway, it's Schrodinger's class feature.
Schrodinger's class feature. Wow. Hey, if you like this video and others like it, as well as all the awesome content over on nerdarchy.com, why not come check us out over on Patreon and support us there?
Or you can support us by checking out products that we make. In this case, we have one over on the DM's Guild, Druid Circle from the Beyond. New Druid Circle for players that want something a little bizarre for their character. Circle of the Beyond taps into aberration creatures and dimensions steeped in madness and chaos. Abelar the Aberrant is an ancient evil from the realm beyond this world. Through its insidious manifestations of the creature's bizarre psychic emanations infesting subconscious minds and dreams of mortals. The content you'll find in here: monsters, NPCs, and more. Abelar the Aberrant, Spawn of Abelar, Druid of Abelar, High Druid of Abelar, and 4 plot hooks for you to use in addition to that Circle from the Beyond. But let us know what you think down below in the comments. You can tell us whether you think an owlbear is way too powerful for a character to be able to turn into. Are you one of those but actually guys? It's a monstrosity. Let us know below. Or you're like, no, owlbears are cool. My druids can turn into owlbears.
While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Go ahead and wild shape all over that notification bell so you don't miss a single video.
Quick reminders, we drop new videos Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays here on the channel. So come on back. But you can't wait till then. No worries. We've got you covered. We did another video about druids up here. 5 best feats for a Circle of the Moon druid.
So until next time, stay nerdy.